Hi everyone. Today I am demonstrating you how to use a ForEach scope in Mule ESB. ForEach scope is pretty much important and in fact a powerful component provided in Mule palette, and it is a very commonly used scope in any integration application within Mule. So what we will see today is a use case which I have already prepared. So I'll be just showing you on what all the properties I've set for each of the components and how we are setting the parameters in for each scope, and I will show you how to run this application with the payload which I'm having today. So the first thing what I've done is I've dragged and dropped the HTTP listener component, request response listener component. So here what we have is the host port and path parameter which I have entered. Host I have given as localhost, port as 8022 and path as service. I am not giving any other settings for HTTP connector. The next thing which I dropped is a JSON to object transformer. Now the reason why I'm putting JSON to object transformer is like I'm giving the input as a JSON object. So I want to convert it into an java.lang.object so that I can use it in for each scope. One critical thing that we need to make sure when we are working with for each scope is like the input what we are, or the parameter which is coming inbound to the for each scope should be an Java object. If it is any other formatted object, it will not accept, it will not work. So here what we are doing is JSON object, JSON to object transformer I am using, and in advanced sections I have given it as java.lang.object so that it converts into a Java object. If I don't give it for its scope, it is not going to work. The next thing what I have done is setting a variable. Now in this variable I am defining the name as my var, and you can see the value I have given it as new Java util hash map. That means I am declaring my variable as a hash map. The next thing is dropping a for each. Now for each is actually a scope. It's not a component like your HTTP connector or a transformer like your JSON object, JSON to object component. So here for each is actually a scope, and inside for each scope you can have n number of message processors like logger, expression, variable. It goes like that. So in for each, if you go to the parameter, the properties tab, I can see something called as collection. So what I have given in collection is hash payload dot activity list. Now before telling what is payload activity list, I want to show you the message which I am going to process through my application. Now this is the message which I am going to process. So you can see activity list given here. This activity list is nothing but a collection of, or an array of activity 1 and activity 2. So you can see activity 1 and activity 2 having sub elements, which is service consumer, project, another activity, service provider, and purchase received. So I have two array elements for activity list, two activity under activity list. Going back to Mule, here I'm telling what is my collection, the list which I want to iterate. So activity list is the list which I want to iterate. I'm leaving the counter variable as empty, which I'm not going to use. Usually this counter variable is used when you are trying to iterate and do something on a specific element inside your for each scope, which I'm not covering at this point of time. The second thing is batch size, which by default should be given as 1. You can't give anything else. If I give it as 0, it will immediately say that you have to give something which is equal or greater than 1. So I'm giving it as 1. The next one is root message. Root message is something which holds the incoming payload to for its scope. That means that is the only message which will not be tampered by the internal processors of for its scope. So when you are having a message which is reaching the boundary of for its scope, and once it comes inside, there can be a lot of processing happening within that payload. So if you want to maintain the structure of the payload as it is, and you need to have a copy and then work on it, that is exactly what for each scope is going to do. For each scope maintains the incoming payload, copy it into root message and keep it there. Inside for each scope, you have your original payload getting manipulated as it is required. So when someone is requiring another component out of for its scope to use the original payload, they will refer to root message. So inside for its scope, I have a logger, I have an expression component, and I have a variable component. So I have a logger where I am telling that message payload.activity.activity to know that what is the incoming payload, whether it is properly iterated or not. So I'm just printing it, the first element. So if you go to my message here, you can see activity list. So I already iterated. So once you are inside for each scope, you don't need to think about activity list because that is a root structure. You only need to think about activity. So inside activity, I have an element named activity. So that is the reason why I have payload.activity.activity, and then have a counter where I am giving flowers dot counter. So I have a flowers dot counter which is defined here. So this is nothing but in for each, if you see here I have a counter variable. So I'm just trying to read number of variables, number of times the for each has looped. So I'm just trying to get those value in flowers dot count. The next one is an expression where I'm trying to get the value from activity element and put it into a string called act, and this is being pushed into the key value pair of my var is a hash map which I have already declared in variable. And the third one is again a variable setting where I'm trying to set it into the payload.activity.activity into activity manner variable. Now after the for each scope, I can see a logger which I'm just trying to print that activity manner variable which I have set inside for each scope. And the last one is again a logger where I want to print my hash map, which is nothing but the variable which I created and set inside the for each scope, my var. Let's try running this and see how it behaves. I'm going back to my service here. So I'm rechecking my port. So the port is 8022. So it's HTTP localhost 8022/service. And I have the payload activity list, and it has got two elements, two activity sub elements, and activity element is one here and the other one for the next one here. So let's run it and see how it behaves. So executed. Now coming back to the console, I can see here uh, the first logger which is inside the for each scope here, which is actually printing the counter value as 1 and the payload which I have given in the logger. The second one is again printing the counter 2, that means the for loop has incremented to one level up, and it is printing the next element which is under activity list activity. So I am printing the payload twice here. The logger which I kept outside the for each scope is actually printing the variable which I as expected is just the element out of the activity list here, which is nothing but double hash. So double hash has printed here. Now I want to see whether my hash map which I actually extracted the values out of activity list within my for each scope is printing or not, which is here. So I can see the hash map printed here, key value double hash, which where I have given the key and value as the same name or same value. So here what you can see is like I have demonstrated you how to extract the value from a for each scope and how a for each scope to be configured. Hope you have find interesting with this particular tutorial. Please let me know your comment on this tutorial. Thank you.